What is going on, everyone? Nostalgia925 coming at you with another video. We're going to have some fun here because it will not be another explaining Digimon episode. It is going to be me replying to a comment of a faithful follower, Andres Marrero, who wrote an interesting comment in the All Pirate Digimon Explained video. A video where I created a fictional pirate story but with pirate Digimon, just to show you the potential the Digimon franchise has to make an interesting pirate story. Andres said the following: I hope that I'm not being impudent, but can you please do that comparison video involving Vespiquen and the mysterious royal base? I assume that you mean that we compare the different bee colonies and how they work, right? To which I will say, alright Andres, let us compare the Pokémon Vespiquen and its hive with the royal base in a comparison video. For those who are new, the Digimon comparison videos are videos where we take a look at different franchises and compare some of its aspects to that of Digimon. We have compared Yu-Gi-Oh! Creatures to certain Digimon, we've also compared Pokémon to Digimon. Heck, I even announced a Digimon versus Pokémon intellectual war, with the emphasis on intellectual, which in my ears mean that we have interesting debates with elaborated arguments and not insults, which can be found quite often on the internet, unfortunately. But then again, the internet has a habit of attracting extreme comments. I even did an extended research about it when I wrote my bachelor thesis. My conclusion, it is very sad. Anyway, as we mostly explore Digimon on this channel, let us give our guest, which is in this case Pokémon, the luxury of being explored first. We're going to take a look at the Pokémon Combee and Vespiquen. Both are, in Pokémon standards, of the bug and flying type, which is accurate. For your record, a bug is an insect with segmented legs and hard outer layers called exoskeletons. Ants, flies, bees are all bugs, even though Combee nor Vespiquen have those segmented legs. Clearly, design-wise, they are a bit different, but with good reasons. We'll get to that in a moment. Oh, and just in case, know that all bugs are insects, but not all insects are bugs. What I found very interesting with the Pokémon Combee and Vespiquen is that when you consider real bees and how they find a new home, obviously the Pokémon variant are doing it way different. Normally, the honeybee's process of choosing a dwelling place unfolds during colony reproduction, also called swarming, which occurs mainly in late spring and early summer, meaning May or July. These bees no longer visit brightly lit, sweet-scented sources of nectar and pollen. Instead, they investigate dark places, knot holes, cracks in tree limbs, gaps among roots, and crevices in rocks, always seeking a snug cavity suitable for housing a honeybee colony. This quote comes from an article written by Thomas Seeley. You'll find the link towards the article in the description box. In the case of Combee, or actually in the case of Vespiquen, it is Vespiquen that is the beehive. A mobile beehive, I would even dare to say. And the way the duo Combee and Vespiquen work together is very interesting. And lucky for us, Pokémon has that famous Pokémon encyclopedia known as the Pokédex, that has different information depending on the Pokémon version you are playing. And Andres did make us a nice summary of these entries. I quote: Vespiquen organizes and commands the Combees over distances through pheromones with the basis in sweet scent. And just for your record, I know, you might hear me say that a lot, but I would much rather have you finish the video with as much information as you can get. What are pheromones? I am really hoping some of you would ask themselves that question. Pheromones are a chemical substance produced and released into the environment by an animal, especially a mammal or an insect, affecting the behavior or physiology of others of its species. Pheromones are similar to hormones but work outside of the body. They can induce activity in other individuals, such as sexual arousal, but most insects, just like Vespiquen, use pheromones to communicate. And as Andres continued, the Combee are able to recognize the minute chemical differences as well as determine when the scent was produced. So Combee rarely ever get confused in regards to Vespiquen's orders, even during the midst of combat with scents flying all over the place. As a result, Vespiquen hives tend to have excellent ventilation so that the orders can be delivered and received as quickly and efficiently as possible. And if I may add, all it would take is to look at the move list of Vespiquen to know how much control the Pokémon has over its underlings. It has two moves, one named Attack Order and the other Defend Order. If you take it literally, it would mean that the user calls out its underlings to either pummel the foe or defend the user from attacks. Now, to get a little deeper, after reading the Pokédex entry, I realized that Vespiquen does not only have control over Combee. Here is the Pokédex entry of Vespiquen in Pokémon Alpha Sapphire Y. It says the following: its abdomen is a honeycomb for grubs. It raises its grubs on honey collected by Combee. Now the question is, what are grubs? If you ask that question, you might not be happy you did. Let me show you what a grub is. I hope you are not terrified by the video, you asked for it. A grub is the larva of an insect. Bees, after 3 days inside the egg, have these worm-like forms and are given food by workers. In the case of Pokémon, they are being raised by honey collected by Combee. I may have a habit of turning things darker than needed, I'm sorry for that, but you do realize that what the Pokédex entry of Vespiquen in Pokémon Alpha Sapphire Y is telling actually means that Vespiquen is ready to let larvae, basically babies who need to be taken care of, fight to defend the motherland. And in the Pokédex entry of Pokémon Sword, it is said that the grubs are willing to risk their lives to defend Vespiquen. Talk about patriotism. Now in the case of Digimon, when you add Digimon to the mix, everything will seem almost irrelevant, as the franchise knows how to take things up a notch. Seriously, when you try to bring something to the Digimon level, we are talking next level. From what we have said about Vespiquen, we know that it is the BEEHIVE. We know that Combee will always be near Vespiquen either to bring honey or to provide assistance. The BEEHIVE in Digimon is known as the Royal Base. We're talking about a base, my good friends, not a hive. A base that is mysterious and aerial. And by the way, please don't mind the artwork. The Digimon developers did not even give us a glimpse of how the royal base would look like, so I just took a random picture on the internet. It does, however, remain a fact that the royal base is inhabited by FANBEEMON, Wizardmon, CanonBeemon and Tiger Vespamon. For Digimon, I explained in the Explaining FANBEEMON video, a video that was focused on its Digivolutions. You can find the link towards it in the description box. In this comparison video, we are mostly focused on how these specific hives work in Digimon and in Pokémon. And I would say that the biggest difference between the Vespiquen hive and the royal base is that the royal base and its inhabitants almost function like the military. For starters, it is a base. Worse, a base that is still under construction. The goal of that construction is a mystery, even to this day. This would mean that we are looking at an incomplete base or hive, so we do not even know its full potential. We do not know what is happening inside or what will be happening inside once the construction is completed. Second of all, we are talking about an aerial base. Of course, its position is exposing it to dangers from every direction, but you will see, as I will explain in a moment, the inhabitants, meaning FANBEEMON, Wizardmon, CanonBeemon and Tiger Vespamon, have structurally and physically adapted themselves in such a way that it became impossible to approach the royal base. You will understand why. Third of all, the royal base was constructed with a goal. It is a bit different in comparison to the BEEHIVE of Vespiquen, as Vespiquen is the BEEHIVE. As far as I know, Pokémon are usually acting based on instincts, so we can presume that Vespiquen first and foremost would want to survive, as it commands its minions to sacrifice themselves for the hive if need be. In Digimon, on the other hand, whether they act based on instincts or not is up to debate, as some Digimon have developed a sense of self, some have not, and some, because of certain interferences, were imposed a certain purpose, making them act in a particular way. And to raise the chances to get to that goal, Digimon will be given certain tools or will be organized particularly to give them all the chances needed. That's the reason it is said that it is impossible to reach the royal base. And last of all, and this one is very important, in the Pokédex entry of the Pokémon Combee in Pokémon Heart Gold and Soul Silver, it is said that at night, Combee sleep in a group of about 1,000 packed closely together in a lump. This would obviously mean that Vespiquen has the potential to have an army of about thousands of Combee. It will however depend on how much Vespiquen can handle. As far as we know, when it comes to reproduction, there is a positive correlation between food availability and reproduction. The more food there is, the less an animal or Pokémon will have to fight to get it. The more chances it has to survive and give birth to offsprings. When it comes to the FANBEEMON line, on the other hand, only FANBEEMON is quote-unquote biological, or maybe better said organic. The rest of the inhabitants are all cyborgs. With enough resources, cyborgs can be mass-produced day and night. They don't need food to survive and can be given tools for specific tasks. This would also mean that the royal base inhabitants have the same potential as Vespiquen to be surrounded by an army of thousands. It can be the case that inside the royal base there is this cycle of mass producing to basically give them an endless supply of soldiers. The only Digimon originating from the royal base to hit soil on a regular basis is FANBEEMON. It goes down to carry home data left on fields of flowers or vegetation to use as raw materials. In case it senses approaching danger, it will redden its antenna and contact its allies, summoning huge crowds of its comrades. Its comrades will mostly be FANBEEMON because all other inhabitants usually remain near the royal base. Unless the cyborg Digimon Witchmon were to notice something with the antenna parts on its head which have high reconnaissance abilities. As recon Digimon for the base, it is usually patrolling the vicinity on the lookout for approaching Digimon. And with the propellers on its shoulders and the stabilizers on its back, it is able to rapidly approach enemies or return to the base if needed. It also has a fair share of projectiles that can take down larger Digimon, and we all know that Digimon can be huge. So imagine you're facing a group of Wizardmon with laser projectiles, jet boosters, and a body covered in a hard substance, presumably metal, rendering bullets useless. FANBEEMON is perhaps the worst among the three and serves as the last line of defense when it comes to the outside of the royal base. It is a massive Digimon with gigantic arms container, boasting an innumerable amount of bombs whatsoever, and it is equipped with a high caliber laser cannon which can even shoot clean through strongly armored opponents. So you'll have to go through an army of FANBEEMON, an army of Wizardmon, and an army of FANBEEMON to enter the royal base. Without forgetting that this same army is probably also inside the royal base, as that is where they come from in the first place. And if you are lucky enough to have survived an encounter with the army of FANBEEMON and the army of Wizardmon and the army of FANBEEMON, both outside and inside, there is another army waiting for you known as Vespamon. They boast an astounding degree of stamina, they never stop moving during combat, and the best of these Vespamon are inducted in what is known as the Covered Honeycorps Royal Commando, and they are forming an elite group. It is said that the top 0.08% of Vespamon will be inducted in that elite group. It can be 0.08% of hundreds, maybe thousands of Vespamon, but that would mean that you could find 80 or 800 elite Vespamon. And the truth is that in every bee colony there's always a queen somewhere. In Pokémon, Vespiquen is the queen and therefore is 100% female. You will not find a male variant. In Digimon, on the other hand, we do not know who the queen of the royal base is. We do not know the purpose of that base. We only know that it is a base that hovers in the air and is presumably massive because it has an army of bees with lasers, radars, even swords, just in case, and they are all ready to defend the base with their lives. In the Digimon universe, it became common knowledge to never try to conquer the royal base. So I would say the royal base is basically the United States of America. You cannot invade it because geography is clearly at their side, just like the royal base, weapons are clearly at their side, heck, even civilians have weapons, you know what I'm talking about. So, to conclude, ladies and gentlemen, we have just compared the beautiful beehive in Pokémon to a royal base of bees in Digimon. I repeat, we compare the beehive to a royal base of bees with swords, lasers, cannons, jet boosters, recon antenna, cyborgs and androids, elite troops inside of another elite troop, and mind, the base is still under construction. Hi guys, this is the end of the video. When I say that Digimon is taking things to the next level, you have to believe me that they really take it to the next level, or levels in plural. I love making these comparison videos because sometimes the difference is so huge that it does not make sense. We are talking about bees. In the one franchise, a bee is only looking for honey to serve the queen. In Digimon, we see here a bee looking for nectar to construct a base, and they have the audacity to call it royal. Why are bees constructing a base in the first place? With an army that can be mass produced already, and they haven't even finished their base? You know what? This is too crazy. I'm done with this video. And get ready, because at some point I'm going to ask you guys to do research on how you can successfully invade the royal base. Make sure to subscribe for that, otherwise you might not see my posts in the Nostalgia.5 community page. And if you're new, know that my videos are all placed in different playlists, which are always updated, that way you can catch up on the newest and the oldest videos.